Shabbat Shalom. So it must have been a relatively slow news week this week, because somewhere in the midst of ISIS and should we vaccinate our children against measles, and does anyone care what Brian Williams has or doesn't have to say, there is an article in the New York Times about synagogues and whether synagogues in the 21st century should continue to maintain a dues structure. Somehow, in the midst of ISIS, the measles, and Brian Williams, I found it fascinating that made the New York Times as well. But nevertheless, that was a conversation. And it comes to be, and I know this is a surprise to all of us, that apparently people are more apt to pursue pleasure or to pursue money than to search for meaning. I know that's a surprise, right? But so we see that synagogues are suffering because really our function, our mission, is to help people search for meaning. That's what this is about. It's about searching for the meaning of life, finding a real understanding of why we're here and what we're supposed to be doing. We all know it's not about the pursuit of money. We all know it's not about the pursuit of pleasure. Yet somehow when we look upon our own lives, what do we spend the bulk of our time doing? Pursuing money, pursuing pleasure. So here we are now with this question of, if synagogue is in the mission of searching for meaning, is that good for the Jews? Can synagogues sustain with that model? Frankly, my thought is that we double down on the search for meaning, because I think it's got pretty good longevity. So here we are asking the question for the search for meaning. And really the first place we have to go when we ask in the search for meaning is to the Torah. And this week's Torah portion, Parashat Yitro. Moses ascends Mount Sinai after leaving Egypt and leading millions of Jews out of Egypt and out of slavery. Moses goes up upon Mount Sinai, and of course God gives to Moses the 10 Commandments. Right? And God says to Moses, take 2 tablets and call me in the morning. Think about it for a moment. But of course, according to Jewish tradition, it wasn't just the 2 tablets of law that God gave to Moses. God gave to Moses the entire written and the entire oral Torahs. And encapsulated in that Mount Sinai experience, we have the meaning of life. We have the challenge of how to search for meaning. We have the answers to it there in the Torah. Perhaps more importantly, our ancestors had that experience of the search for meaning there on Mount Sinai. They had what we call the theophany, the true encounter with God. And ever since that point, if you read Jewish tradition, you read Jewish law, you read Jewish texts, our people have been trying to get back to Mount Sinai for thousands of years. How do we feel that true encounter with God that gives us that sense of meaning, that gives us a sense of purpose in the world, that allows us to feel part of something bigger than ourselves that soccer or baseball or the latest reality television show don't allow us to feel? And so in that search for meaning, we are trying to get back to Mount Sinai. Now, of course, as a good rabbi, my first stop in the search for meaning was the Torah, and it led me to this week's Torah portion, Parashat Yitro, the giving of the 10 Commandments on top of that mountain. But I'm a 21st century rabbi. So the very next thing I did after researching the Torah and the search for meaning, where did I go? Google. And in Google, I typed in the search for meaning. And what comes up is actually a number of comments of people traversing the world, going from one side of the earth to the other side of the earth. And every time, in every one of these comments, they come to a mountaintop, and there on the top of the mountain is an old man with a long white beard. The story sounds familiar. But each time it's a little different answer that the old man in the long white beard gives in the search for meaning. And sure enough, these people have traversed the world. They've gone from one side to the other. They just want to know what's the search for meaning. And in one comment, he gets up to the very top of the mountain, and what does the old man say? Oh, you meant the next mountain. You go to another comment, and he says, oh, what is the search? What is the meaning of life? What is this all about? And the old man with the long white beard says, check my Facebook status. And yet a third comic, the same thing, one side of the earth to the other, one side of the earth to the other, finally goes up to the top of the mountain. There's an old man with a long white beard, and what does he say? What is the meaning of life? Location, location, location. There's something about having that encounter, though, on top of the mountain that we're all pursuing. When we search for meaning, we are searching to have that encounter with God, wherever it might be. Now, in Jewish thought, in the Jewish tradition, we encounter God whenever we study Torah. Our tradition teaches whenever we study Torah, God speaks to us. And when we pray, we have the opportunity to speak to God. But still, we're searching for that meaning. We're searching for that real divine encounter. Now, for me, and it just happens to be my own interest, I find Jewish law entirely fascinating. So many years ago, as I was studying Torah, I came across a mitzvah that says a man shall not take a razor to his face and shave. It's a mitzvah in the Torah. So as I looked at my own practices and I saw that I've been using the same razor that I got at 18 years old, right, that they send you in the mail, and I decided that at that moment I was going to change and I was going to become a halachic shaver. Now, how does one shave according to Jewish law? If you can't take a razor to your face, you have to, if you want to shave, go to the store and buy the kind of electric razors that lifts the hair off your face and then cuts it. You've seen commercials for it, I know. It lifts the hair and then cuts it, and that is a halachic shaver, and thus you can shave according to halakha. It's a bizarre thing. But here I am, now for several years, looking in the mirror, shaving with my halachic razor, and I'm looking at myself each time thinking, this is not as good of a shave as I used to get. But I'm also thinking about how I do this for a reason. And how that simple act of switching shavers actually brings meaning to my life. And so now when I look in the mirror and I shave, and I think first about how I'm not getting as good of a shave as I used to get, the second thing I think about is how are you going to touch lives today? You're a Jew, you're making a Jewish choice. A Jewish responsibility, the meaning of life is to touch the lives of others. What are you going to do today to touch lives? It's a pretty meaningful shaving experience for me each and every day. Then we come here. Because not everybody can truly encounter God and have that pursuit of meaning while shaving with their razor in the morning. So just like our people have for thousands of years, we create a space to come to search for meaning. Now we know in our Torah that after leaving Mount Sinai, what's the very next thing our people do? They travel from Mount Sinai, but yet they're still yearning for that experience, so they build the tabernacle. They build the Mishkan in the wilderness, and there they go to encounter God. That becomes their portable Mount Sinai. In our own times, we too are seeking sanctuary from life's storms. So we build our tabernacle, our place to come to find sanctuary, to find community, to pursue meaning. Because it's not just about pursuing money, and it's not just about pursuing pleasure. And so in coming here, we find community. Now we find community when we study Torah, we find community when we pray, and that all happens here. But I'll challenge you that we should also be pursuing meaning. We should be in that search for meaning whenever we encounter another individual. So I'll ask you to turn to somebody next to you. Wish them a Shabbat Shalom. If they happen to be a parent or a child, maybe a spouse, you can even tell them you love them. And in that way, we begin to find meaning. Because we know in Jewish thought, we encounter God on Mount Sinai. We encounter God when we study Torah. We encounter God when we pray. But we also encounter God when we look upon another individual and truly look into their souls. Because as our Torah teaches us, each of us are created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. And so when we truly look upon another, when you look into their eyes, when you truly care about another, then you can feel God's presence. We begin to understand what meaning is about. Now I have one more challenge for all of you. If this is true community, then not only should you find meaning in coming to this community, but you should realize that when you're not here, you're missed. So I want you to once again look at somebody around you or near you, and your job, if they're not here at shul next week, your job is to take note. And on Sunday or Monday, give them a call. Or give me a call and tell me to give them a call. And that way it will truly become community. Now once we've looked in the proverbial mirror, whether shaving or not shaving, and began to search for meaning, and once we've turned to our community and begun to search for meaning, and it's here as the individual looking in the mirror and the community looking at each other that we truly see God's presence within us and around us. We have that divine encounter. It's our obligation to bring that encounter with the divine to others. And we need to leave here and we need to go make a difference in the lives of others. Because that is our mission on earth. That's why God put us here. Not to play another soccer game, not to play another video game, not to watch another reality TV show. God put us here on earth to make a difference in the lives of others. And so as we sit here during this prayer service, we have to ask ourselves, how am I going to transform the life of another? Because really the prayers, they're beautiful, and they're the ancient words of our people, but they were given to us because our ancestors didn't really know what words to use to express gratitude, to express thanks for all the blessings in our life. So in just a moment when we transition to the Musaf service, you can sing along, you don't have to sing along, but I ask you to search inward. Let's begin together now that search for meaning in the individual, in the community, and in how we as a people bring that search for meaning, that encounter at Mount Sinai that happened thousands of years ago that we read in our Torah portion this week. How can we bring it to the homeless person on the street? How can we bring it to the hungry person? How can we bring it to those who are insufficiently paid, don't have enough money to live the basics of life? How do we bring that encounter with the divine to the widow, to the orphan, to all those in need? When we truly look in the mirror and see ourselves, and see our challenge to search for meaning. When we come to sanctuary and we look at our friends and our community and our family, and we begin to search for meaning because we see the godliness in others. And then when we take that sense of divine and go out into the world, we're not only searching for meaning ourselves, we're bringing meaning to all those whose lives we touch. May God give us the strength to pursue meaning with all of our heart and with all of our soul. May God give us the compassion and the wisdom to bring that meaning to the lives of those in need. And may God bless us all with peace. And let us stay together. Amen.